Attention sports enthusiasts, keep the adrenaline pumping and elevate your game day with Chumba Casino. It's completely free to play. No purchase necessary. Whether you're cheering from the stands, on the move, or relaxing at home, Chumba Casino brings the thrill of social casino directly to your fingertips. Experience the ultimate social casino adventure with reels of casino-style games, offering hundreds of exciting options to choose from and fresh new releases every week. There's always something new and thrilling to explore, from action-packed social slots and classic blackjack to engaging bingo and solitaire. The fun never stops. Plus, enjoy generous daily login bonuses and a fantastic free welcome bonus to kickstart your social gaming journey. Dive into the excitement. Discover a world where you can play for your chance to redeem some serious prizes and have a blast along the way. Don't miss out. What are you waiting for? Join now and immerse yourself in nonstop fun and adventure with Chumba Casino. Get in on the action today at ChumbaCasino.com and make every day a Chumba day. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus TNC apply.
Today's episode is brought to you by Achieve Unite, a global leader in leadership development, business acceleration, and trusted partnerships. Achieve Unite combines deep expertise, data analytics, and AI to help companies accelerate revenue, control costs, elevate talent, and build trust. They're more than advisors. They deliver results with their proven three-part approach: talent development, ecosystem strategy, and profitable growth programs. Whether you're strengthening alliances, enhancing internal systems, or optimizing your partner ecosystem, Achieve Unite is the partner you need for success. Welcome to the Delighted Customers Podcast. I am so glad you're here. We challenge conventional thinking about customer experience because I believe that improving experiences isn't just good for business. It's a powerful way to make a meaningful difference in people's lives. Each week, we feature thought-provoking conversations with industry thought leaders from a variety of backgrounds, offering unique perspectives and actionable insights. Get ready to sharpen your leadership and transform your approach to customer experience. Let's dive in. Well, today on the Delighted Customers podcast, we are going all the way to Poland, a country that I have not had a guest from in the past, and so excited to have on the show Aga Szóstek. Aga is a PhD, she's an author, and we're going to be talking today about how to create CX leadership that works. And Aga has a deep and wide breadth of experience in design, and just so excited to have you on the show. Aga, welcome.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. I'm so happy that I can be with you here today.
Me too. So we're going to be talking about leadership by design. I want to share a little bit about your background for the audience so they have a sense of what your background is and where you came from.
Yeah, so I started with something that has nothing to do with technology, which is classical languages, Latin and ancient Greek. But then I moved to technology. So after Warsaw University, I moved to the University of Technology in the Netherlands. I did my master it was called Master of Technological Design. Today we would probably call it UX. Back then it was called Interaction Design. And then I did my PhD at the Industrial Design Department when we were working on intelligent systems and intelligent solutions.
Yeah. And you mentioned for a while that you were working for a short stint there for Google.
Yes.
For
Indeed.
Gmail. Tell us about what you were doing there.
So as part of my PhD, I was invited to come to Google. Actually, what happened was super nice because they saw my article on how do you manage your availability online. And they implemented some of these things in Gtalk. Gtalk doesn't exist anymore, but when it existed, it was there. And then I was invited to come and work for Gmail with Gmail team. And I was working on something which is called priority inbox. So how do you divide the emails in your mailbox?
So you could be the reason why it's easier for me to organize things in my Gmail.
Yes, there's some of my thoughts in it, certainly.
Thank you so much for that. And then you also did this work with light and the use of light to help people out on the medical side, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Share a little bit about what that project was about.
So we've been working, I was at an institute back in the Netherlands, which was combining business or technological companies with the university. I was working with Philips Lighting. So today it's like Synergy. It's like a different company, but at the time it was part of Philips. And we've been working on finding solutions for people who had psychiatric episodes. So basically in the Netherlands, the system works like this, that when you have a psychotic episode, be it maniacal or depressive, so like either you are trying to harm others or yourself, that's more the scale there.
Yeah.
You don't go into the psychiatric hospital first. Immediately you go to it's called a safe house first for 3 months. And if you recover, you can go back to the society and you rejoin your life. Okay. Only if you don't recover, you go to the psychiatric ward. Okay. So we've been working with those safe houses and we were trying to use light to help people to connect with their bodies, connect with their breath. So, like kind of bring some idea of mindfulness into these places. So I've been working on a lamp that helps you breathe in a relaxed way. Imagine a lamp which has lights going up and down, and a pillow that you put over your belly that registers the speed of your breath, sends it to the lamp, and then the lamp synchronizes with your breathing, and then it sends you back the signal on how you can relax in order to breathe in a way that calms you down.
So it sounds like parallel with a pacemaker, which helps regulate the speed of your heart. But here it's putting into sync your whole breathing and your self-regulating your nervous system.
Exactly. I never had this comparison, but you are very right about it.
Interesting. All right. So everything you do to me is interesting. And coming from a design thinking background and a technical background, it's really fascinating to think about, those people who are listening who don't come from the CX world. There's a whole aspect of customer experience. A lot of people get very confused about what customer experience is, and they often think about it as customer service, and that equates to them as a contact center or a call center. Here, what we're talking about, to me, the call center is extremely important, and it's a great resource, and it's a way that customers interact with companies. But I love what I heard from someone at Comcast say years ago, is that service happens when the experience is broken.
That's true.
So the customers really don't wake up wanting to call the contact center. No. That's usually an extra step for them. Whether they have to do it, now they can do it, maybe a self-serve version of it, but still they want it to work the first time. So big part of what CX is designing the experience in a way that creates an emotional connection, that brings value to the customers, that hopefully keeps them coming back and telling their friends. And there's a science, there's some art to it, right? But there's also some science to it.
Absolutely.
As well. And that's your world. And you wrote 2 books, one of which, just by the name of the book, is a learning opportunity for people. It's called the Umami Strategy.
Yes.
How do you say it? Umami?
Umami. The Umami Strategy, yes.
Okay, and explain what umami is.
Umami is the 5th taste that we've got.
Taste.
Yes. So if you think about eating food, you have the 4 basic flavors, which is the salty, sweet, bitter, and sour. And when something tastes really good, so like you have this feeling of deliciousness, this is when the taste umami is being activated. And there is a lot of science behind it. There is a lot of food that's been identified to have umami. Avocados, fish, algae, mushrooms, tomatoes, cheese. That's why people love pizza and sushi. This is because it gives them the umami taste in their mouth.
Umami taste, yeah.
And I think that this is the same with companies. Like you have companies and they have the business and they have the customers and they have the employees and they have their finances. But if you add this experience, this flavorful thing with processes and with technologies and everything that's being offered facing customers, suddenly people say like, hey, I want to deal with that company, not with the competition.
Yeah, and it's so critical. We don't talk about this a lot, and I mentioned it just a few moments ago, but one of the things that creates value for customers is an emotional connection that they have with the experience that they're going through, and that ultimately drives loyalty, which ends up with better business outcomes. So if we think about the emotional connection and what's required there, it isn't just one thing. Joe Pine, who wrote The Experience Economy, is coming out with another book he was calling The Transformation Economy. And a big part of it is not just, he came out with this idea is that you're going to have an experience, and those people that design and build and deliver the best experiences are going to have a differential advantage over other competitors. But now he's talking about this thing about modes. So it's not just designing an experience for the masses, but he talked about mass customization back in with that book. And now going forward, it's like, well, we as individuals may actually have different modes that we're in where we would interact with your product or service. So we need it to be relevant in the different modes. A good example would be Starbucks, coffee, and how much value you get and how much you're willing to even pay. If I get beans and I grind them at home, I have one experience. If I have a K-cup, that's another experience. If I go to a drive-through and which now they're building more of, I have another experience. If I go in and dine there, I have another experience. And if I have my Starbucks at the Ritz-Carlton overlooking an ocean view, I have yet a different experience and probably expect to pay different prices at each one of those points. So going back to the Umami strategy and connecting to emotions, the magic question would be, how do I create an umami strategy? Because it will ultimately lead through that chain I described to better business outcomes.
Mm-hmm. So actually, that was a question that I was grappling with when I started working with business. I've been working with amazing companies. Like I was lucky enough to work with companies that wanted to be pioneers in experience, that wanted to be challengers in a market. So they wanted to create something new. But then when I was working with them, I realized that when you talk about customer experience or user experience, customer experience comes from business, user experience comes from technology. Now they are often mixed and meshed together. Yeah. And you kind of end up at the level of middle management. So you either end up on an operational level or on a tactical level, but you don't go to the strategic level. So rarely I was invited to the boardrooms. Rarely I was being asked by the C-suite, hey, how can we use this, how can we use the people we are serving as our competitive advantage, to be perfectly honest. Mm-hmm. And I remember I was working with this telecom in Poland, and I was really frustrated about it. So I knew the CEO, he was my mentor at the time. So I went to him and I asked him, hey, why is it the case? And he looked at me and he said something which kind of hit me. He told me, hey, look, when I studied, he was in his 60s at the time. When I studied technology, I studied business, I studied finance, I studied HR. Nobody taught me what you are talking to me. I just don't, I feel it. I feel that this is important, but nobody has ever trained me in how to think about it strategically. And I remember I came home and I thought, okay, I can either be frustrated for the rest of my professional life or I can do something about it. And I went back to him and I said like, hey, okay, how about, would you agree if I started experimenting with the company, with you, and see what resonates, what doesn't resonate, and so on. So basically, that was the basis for creating an approach, which is the Umami strategy, a strategic approach. So like thinking about customer experience from the tactical level, so customer journey maps and things like this, all the way to the boardroom and saying, hey, if you want to really differentiate yourself on the market, you can differentiate yourself in different ways. You can differentiate yourself on a price. So you can be the cheapest. You can differentiate yourself on technology. You can have the most advanced technology in whatever you are doing, or you can think of differentiating yourself in a way you serve your customers. And this is more or less the basis for the foundation for the Umami strategy. And I wanted to kind of return to your point about this emotional value, because this is exactly what I'm telling about there. I'm saying like, if you don't build the emotional connection with your customers, they will leave you for the cheapest or most convenient competitor. And actually what this happened later after the book was already published, what we figured out with a customer, with some of my clients, like business clients, huge organizations, different countries, like, global, is that when you look at the Net Promoter Score, which is, of course, there's a whole discussion about what does a Net Promoter Score measure, how you interpret the data and so on. But what we've noticed is that you can go only so far on a pragmatic value. So you can go up to like 30 or 40 on a plus with pragmatic value, with having a good price, reasonable service, simplicity, and things like this. The rest is emotion. And emotion is difficult for business, very difficult for business. Business is not used to, much like the former CEO of this company I was working with said, not very many CEOs are trained in thinking about CX as a strategic advantage.
So true. So I think about one of the organizations you shared was a telecommunications company. And we're not talking about creating an iPhone which has all the bells and whistles in it that is a cool product to look at, touch, and feel. We're talking about telecommunications, really probably carriers and things we don't even see. Before we even get into some of the strategies, what are some of the myths that people have about leading CX and either why it won't even work or why it shouldn't be a strategy or strategies that have failed? Like, what are some of the things that people think and approach this the wrong way?
So the first, I usually get two questions. The first one is, should we fill in the gaps before we start thinking about emotional experience? So like if we are behind our competitors with technology, with services, with whatever part of your business, shouldn't we fill in the gaps first? And this is a very wrong thinking. It's wrong because if you, as a company, fill in the gaps, you level up to the average market level. It's called the syndrome of averaging out. So basically, like the whole market, like the whole plane levels up, but you are not differentiating yourself in any way because your competitors are doing exactly the same. Because of course, when you create a gap, they will fill in that gap, and then basically you compete on the exact same things over and over and over again.
Could you repeat what it's called again?
The syndrome of averaging out.
Averaging out. Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
It's from a book, Different. Professor Young, I don't remember the name of the author. I can send it to you.
And we'll put that in the show notes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Got it. Syndrome of averaging out. Got it. Okay, that makes perfect sense. And for me, it reminds me of a break-fix strategy.
Yeah, exactly. So basically, when I'm talking about this today I'm invited to the boardroom, so I'm usually talking to the, like C-level. Yeah. So I'm usually telling them, look, if you keep on, you have to fill in the gaps. And at the same time, you have to create the heals. You have to create the differentiators. You have to start making yourself different from your competition. Because if you just focus on just kind of catching up with the rapid, you are not going to get there. So this is the first myth. This is the first challenge that I see.
Got it.
And the second thing, especially in service business, so like financial, telecom, insurance, and so on, I get this question, do you think that we can at all differentiate ourselves emotionally? We are like water in a tap, right? And this is a prevalent way of thinking, which kind of kills the discussion about customer experience before it even started. And fortunately, by now, I have enough examples of different companies that are showing how customer experience and how they show the emotional differentiation actually makes a huge impact. And insurance, you have the American company, it's called Lemonade, right? So this is about insurance.
Yeah.
A perfect example. In Europe, we've got a company which tackles the topic which is probably the least discussed when it comes to service business, which is life insurance. And it's called, get this, Happy Dad.
Happy Dad.
Yeah, it's a British company. I think that the URL is dadhappy.co.uk or .com. I don't remember anymore. But basically what they say, okay, like talking about death is a taboo. how about we kind of break that taboo and say, hey, we're gonna die. And how about, giving instructions who should take care of your pet and who do you want to leave your favorite books to and so on and so forth. And they're selling a life insurance alongside. In Poland, we've got an amazing company which is called Yorkaya, which sells feminine hygiene products. And they are very engaged in helping impoverished communities to be equipped with hygiene products. But also their way of communicating, the way of they're talking about issues that are very sensitive in many cultures, right?
Right.
It's just amazing and just captures your heart.
Yeah. So those are great illustrations. How would you describe it in terms of a model? Like what are some of the ways people should think about their strategies? If they're not in one of those business lines, what are some of the strategies people can think about using?
So first of all, there are aspects of your business that are pragmatic. The pragmatic things are you have to offer the functionality that you should offer, because if you don't do it, people are not going to be able to do whatever you want them to do. You have to be perceived as reliable. So people have to trust you that you're not going to run away with their money. You have to be usable. So customers need to understand how to operate with whatever you are offering them. And you have to provide aesthetics. It doesn't have to be like Apple minimal design, but it has to look consistent and it has to look professional. And if you offer all these things, you are creating a pragmatic value, which means that you are creating a transactional relationship with your customers. And transactional relationship means that you are attractive to them as long as you are the cheapest and the most convenient. So, and if you think about a lot of companies, they are doing exactly this because they are solving problems that their customers are telling them about. And problems usually fall into those categories. They are really broad, but basically this is more or less about either something not working well, something not being clear enough, something not happening the way they wanted, or something not looking professional. So these are the aspects. If you want to create this emotional connection, first of all, and this is sometimes simple yet difficult, is you have to be empathetic towards your customers, which basically means that people want to be treated like humans and not like numbers in a database. And empathy can go a long way. You don't have to solve all the problems all the time. Sometimes they cannot be solved. But if you are understanding and you kind of put effort into solving that problem, customers appreciate it. Although there is something which I called fake empathy. There are companies that unfortunately use it. I am not going to use names here, but the problem with fake empathy is that you call in with a problem, let's say, and they say oh my God, we are so sorry that this happened to you. It's terrible. Are you safe, or are you in any danger because of this, and so on and so forth. And then it turns out that nothing happens. So if you make the empathetic promise that something will be resolved, either follow through with it or don't do it, because this breaks trust. So it breaks the reliability, which is the pragmatic thing. So this is the first thing. The second thing is joy and fun. Customers, they really enjoy using things that have elements of cheerfulness in them. Like I said about this happy death just before, right? Even with the most serious topics, you can add elements that are making people feel like this is not an obligation. Has elements of fun. So this is the second thing. The third thing is engagement. Engagement means that you are solving problems of your customers that fall within the realm of your business. So if you are making furniture, you are offering a service that takes the old furniture. If you are in banking, you offer a way to pay for parking. So you connect the systems of paying for parking in the city center with your app. And when people know that there is one place when they can solve problems that are mentally connected for them, they are super happy to use it. And then there is a final thing that makes a hell lot of difference, which is providing meaning. Providing meaning means that your customers know that your company is not only about making money, that you are in the world for something more than just this. And if the values of the customers are aligned with the values of the company, and the company is not greenwashing or doing things that are perceived as just PR or, like CSR, like all those fancy abbreviations that circle the world every now and then. But you really see that the company is really doing something. And it can be small. Like if you're a small company, you don't have to change the world in a huge way. You can change it locally in your community and just do something extra. This creates this emotional connection that people absolutely get attached to. And even if you are a boring company, but you have the values and you live by your values, they are willing to stay with you.
So, for example, can you think of an illustration, like maybe the telecom company or something else where it's kind of a boring industry? If you think of it as a boring industry, but actually you hit on all, maybe you design an experience that hits on all four of those points.
Again, I'm going to use a Polish example because that's where I live. So of course it's the easiest for me. We have in Poland, there is no Amazon. Amazon is there, but it has no meaning on the Polish market. We have our own Amazon, which is called Allegro. And Allegro is like the biggest marketplace. And people buy and sell there much like they do on Amazon. Allegro has, like in Poland, we also have something which is called the Big Orchestra of, I have to do the translation, the Big Orchestra of Christmas Support or Christmas Help. So this is an action that happens once a year where the whole country collects money for helping, usually medical domain, for buying equipment for hospitals, helping with children mental health, and so on and so forth. And this is like a huge thing. Like this usually happens in January. We have the grand finale. There's like a lot of money being collected then. And this is something which is a lot of Poles are really proud of. This is like our communal activity that happens. And the Allegro, so the Polish Amazon, they have a section on their site which allows for auctions that allow to collect the money for the for this cause, for this big orchestra of Christmas help. So basically, they created part of their platform which they have no money from whatsoever. They have to service that. They have to maintain that. And it allows to collect the money for something good, something that Poles are really proud of, and something that has no business value whatsoever.
Got it. Yeah, it's a great example. And I'm sure as people are listening, they're thinking of companies that they love who are doing the same thing. So those are things that's interesting. Those are things that really, to your point, almost any kind of business can do.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I'll give you another example, which is slightly different. So I've been working with a furniture company, and what they said, they are not going to change the way. Of course, they want to change the way their customers think. So they want their customers to think in terms of furniture that has lifetime value. So like you buy something which is beautiful and it stays with you forever, rather than buying the IKEA style furniture, which is like very quick to go. And again, I have nothing against IKEA. Sometimes you need this, sometimes you need that, but that's their goal. But one thing that they want to do, they want to change the way the furniture industry thinks about the usage of the material. So it's not B2C, this is B2B. They want to change the standard of using wood as a material. So basically there's as little waste as possible. So we can have more regeneration of the forests. We are not abusing the nature for creating furniture. And it's a different goal. It's more about the industry and impact on the industry. But I think that this is as important, as beautiful as the other one.
So you can make the business case when you're speaking to the C-suite that by doing these four things, that they will, even though there may be some, it may seem like soft things, touchy-feely things, empathetic, joy and fun, engagement, meaning, that there is real business outcomes from this.
Absolutely. And what is really interesting, at least as far as I see it happening here on my side of the big pond, is that when I come with this model and I show it to the management boards, they very deeply resonate with it. So suddenly there is an explanation of why, by doing all the pragmatic things, so functionality, reliability, usability, and aesthetics, you are not getting where you want to get. And they are getting an extra vocabulary, an extra way of thinking that helps them to say, okay, so if we want to take this extra mile, these are the aspects that we should focus on.
Fascinating. And so appreciate you sharing this very useful, practical, doable advice and insights here. Years of schooling for you, years of experimenting, getting your PhD, writing 2 books. Such an honor to have you on the show. We've got to land the plane now, but I want to end. And for those people listening, we are doing a little bit of a shift here at the very end. In the past, I asked a guest to share with us what's advice that you would give to your 20-year-old self. But today, I'm going to try something different. And it's because the podcast is called the Delighted Customers Podcast. So I want to ask, to start with you, Aga, what delights you as a customer?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question, right? Because we don't really think about it. We often don't name it. Talking about emotions is difficult. That's why customers are not talking about them too much. But as I was thinking about it, I thought that first and foremost, what delights me is humor.
Humor.
I love companies that are not too serious about themselves. And again, I can use the American example with Southwest Airlines. I was flying out of Austin a year ago during the Halloween time.
Okay.
And all the check-in stations of Southwest were dressed in a Halloween-y costumes. And that was amazing. It was it doesn't have to be boring and, uniform and exactly the same over and over and over again. So I absolutely loved it. The second thing that I love and what delights me is connection. And it can be a personal connection. It can be people in the service just being taking this extra step to actually talk to you rather than just treat you as I've done your thing and you go.
Yeah,
Don't disturb me here.
Yeah.
Exactly. And these things can be easily done, to be perfectly honest, because if you have a history of conversations with your customers, you can tap into what the customers said before. So you can even create a little bit of an illusion of this. But this really, I feel then that I'm a human, I'm Aga, who is being seen as Aga, as a human and not, another person. But what really, really resonates with me, and this is something that I've already mentioned, is this meaning. So just having this extra goal. And one of the companies I love, which is an American company, not a company anymore, it's actually a foundation today, is Patagonia. And, I'm wearing the clothes of Patagonia. I'm very proudly. I love them because they go not the extra mile, they go 10 miles ahead to actually follow through with what they believe in. And I wish that there were more companies like this, and I would gladly be their customer.
Okay, so now for those people who are either unfamiliar with Patagonia, can you share with us an example of when you say they go beyond the extra mile?
So what Patagonia does, they say that planet is our only stakeholder, and they are doing hundreds of things. One of them being not using the color red for dyeing their clothes, because this is the most toxic dye for the environment. They are supporting local NGOs, not global NGOs, local NGOs that are saving natural habitat in different parts of the world. They are very active in a political space, actually, which can probably tip a lot of people off. But I love the fact that the company is making a statement. But they are also supporting people who go and create movies about nature, and they show those movies. They help them reach the audience that otherwise would never be reached. And also the other things that they do on a more, sort of a product level is that if you purchase a piece of clothing from Patagonia and it gets destroyed in any way or like damaged in any way, you can send it back and they will fix it for you. So they are doing everything for you to have, much like the furniture I talked about earlier, clothing for a lifetime, which is beautiful.
Yeah, that's a great example. Great example. Well, so many gems here. Thank you so much for sharing the book. The first book is Umami Strategy.
Yes.
Did I say that right?
Yes.
And the second book is Leadership by Design. We'll have that in the show notes, as we will the earlier reference that you shared with us. Have that in the show notes. Aga, thank you so much for being a guest on the show. It's been a delight.
Thank you so much for having me. I had such a wonderful time.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Delighted Customers podcast. It would mean so much if you would take a moment to subscribe. You can go to Apple, Spotify, Amazon Music, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Click on the plus sign or follow button, and that will ensure that you don't miss an episode, and it helps get the word out to others. While you're there, I'd love it if you'd leave a 5-star review. I look forward to seeing you back here next Thursday.
Hi, I'm Chris Gethard, and I'm very excited to tell you about Beautiful Anonymous, a podcast where I talk to random people on the phone. I tweet out a phone number, thousands of people try to call, I talk to one of them, they stay anonymous, I can't hang up, that's all the rules. I never know what's going to happen. We get serious ones. I've talked with meth dealers on their way to prison. I've talked to people who survived mass shootings. Crazy funny ones. I talked to a guy with a goose laugh, somebody who dresses up as a pirate on the weekends. I never know what's going to happen. It's a great show. Subscribe today, Beautiful Anonymous.